Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Welcome everyone to Receiving Noor's weekly Quran classes. We are continuing to study chapter 19, Sura Maryam, and this is our 16th meeting. As you know, Sister Yamina leads the sessions, and then we have a Q&A at the end, and you're also welcome to join in with your comments and questions as appropriate during the discourse. And so we turn to Sister Yamina. Jazakallah khair, Sister Yamina.
الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيد المرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. After we read about the miracles of Zakaria alayhi salam and then the birth of Isa, Jesus alayhi salam, and we talked about the how everything that comes into being, everything created is an ayah, and one of the meanings was that it comes with a message from the creator. And another aspect of being an ayah is that it is a miracle in the sense that nothing other than the maker of the whole creation, the whole universe, can produce anything, even a single tiny atom or seed or anything. And so everything is being created here and now, and everything is an ayah, and everything is a miracle, just like the miracle that was bestowed on Zakaria alayhi salam, and the miraculous birth of Jesus alayhi salam. So his birth is an unusual miracle without a father, and the birth of that we are used to with both parents is again a miracle. It's just that we are used to it. So that gave us a new perspective onto the world, onto life. And we saw how that was directly related to the reality of Tawheed, being not only a belief or a dogma or a claim, but it is the very reality of what's going on in our life. And then we were given various examples of different prophets who lived with that consciousness. And one of them was Ibrahim alayhi salam, and how they worshipped only God and sought help only from God. And so they were, all of them, role models to follow in our life. And now we were told that despite all that, despite the fact that everything in the creation is indicating that reality, is mirroring and reflecting that reality, despite the fact that we have received the revelations from God, his guidance, like in the Quran, and his prophets and messengers. Despite that, some people lose the salah, and which is the prayer and the connection with the Rabb. And then we were told about the two groups of people: those who live in connection with their sustainer, and those who live in disconnection. And of course, we also said that those two attitudes are not only two groups of people, but also two choices, two inclinations, two choices that we can make in our life, and we can even find ourselves in and out of those two categories. Then we were told about, after all this, there are people who deny, or they are surprised, they cannot believe that they will be resurrected, they will be brought to life after death, because they don't realize here and now that we are being sustained in life, that we are being brought up from one state to another, from babyhood to childhood to adulthood. And when we are not aware of what is being created and being given to us here and now, then it seems very far-fetched that one day after we die, we will be resurrected. And we said that that ayah has, like all the other ayahs, the way we read them, one of the aspects of that ayah is looking to the one who flatly, explicitly, openly denies that he will be resurrected, but also it looks to us in more subtle ways, more implicitly, when we think we accept, or at least we don't deny the resurrection and life after death, but often if we look at our life, we will find out that we're living unconsciously, we're living as though there was no resurrection, no life after death, and it's not incorporated in our life, and that means we may know it, we may not be denying it, but we are not actively confirming it, because if we actively confirm that we are, there is life after death, and that we are living a simulation, let's say, of that here and now, that we are brought up to life again and again here in this life, and therefore it's not far-fetched that it will be so in Akhirah. So when we have that yaqeen, that certainty, we will live accordingly. We will experience it in our life. Belief is not information. It is a confirmed knowledge. It's a lived, practice, experienced knowledge. And after that, we have, again, the two groups. We have the disbelievers telling the others that we are better, our station is better, and they think that their values are better than those who believe in God. And last time we ended, I think, with ayah 76 or 77. So I'll start from 73 just to remind us and to build the context, because what we are going to start with this week, which is ayah 77, is building on to what comes before, especially since 73. So in Bismillah, in ayah 73, we were told, and whenever our clear ayat, our ayat is, we always say, both the messages of the Quran as well as the signs and the messages in creation. Whenever our clear ayat are conveyed to them, or our ayat are clearly conveyed to them, إِذَا تُتْلَى عَلَيْهِمْ آيَاتُنَا بَيِّنَاتٍ, those who disbelieve say unto those who believe, which of the two groups is in a better position and is superior as a community. And what makes a community is their value system. So they are really comparing their values and what they think is valuable. And yet, how many a generation we have destroyed before their time, people who surpassed them in material power and resources in outward show. And yet, how many, and then 75, say, whoever is lost in misguidance, may the most merciful extend the span of his life. And let them say whatever they say until the time when they behold that which they were forewarned, whether it be suffering in this world or at the coming of the last hour. For then they will understand which of the two groups was worse in station and weaker in resources. So they think they are best, but then we are told here, like, don't take them seriously, because they may be more powerful materially, but like, there were people who were even more powerful than them. Where are they? There were civilizations that were more advanced. Where are they? So we cannot take something that is transient and temporary for a point of reference for what is valuable or not. If something doesn't last, so what's its value at the end of the day? And then it says, like, they will realize, we will give them enough, we will give them a respite, like we will extend, it says, this, we'll see this expression is used again later. فَلْيَمْدُدْ لَهُ الرَّحْمَنُ مَدًّا. The most merciful will extend the span of their life. Why? So they have the opportunity to realize the reality of what they are being told. Because if they carry on in that path will bring only suffering in this world, and in the next world, when in Akhirah, when everything is clear, Yawm al-Din, when we cannot delude ourselves, then they will realize that actually they were not better in station as they were claiming and boasting to the believers. They are actually weaker. They are worse in station and weaker in resources, because all their resources, they cannot hold on to them, because they will realize that they cannot take anything with them. Like the pharaohs in the pyramids, they had put all their treasuries and their gold and with them in their tombs, because they thought, just in case if we are resurrected, we'll be resurrected with our gold. But of course, they didn't realize that they won't be resurrected in the same realm, in the same platform. It's another world, so you cannot take it with you. You will go there, you will live, even your body, you will leave it here. But you won't be here. Even when your body and all your goods are here, they are not there. The pyramids are empty. And then in 76, we're told, and God, in those who avail themselves of his guidance with an ever deeper consciousness of the right way. Those who follow his guidance, he will give them even more guidance. And good deeds, those who follow his guidance and perform good deeds, live accordingly, the fruit thereof endures forever. So you see, the fruit of the disbeliever, the fruit of their lives, doesn't endure. Even if it seems to be enduring, it will last only. They will leave everything behind them, even if the pyramids or their houses or whatever they achieved is more enduring than themselves. They cannot take it with them. But with those who follow divine guidance, the believers, their good deeds, they bear fruits that endure forever. And they are in your Rabb's sight, in the Rabbika, in your sustainer sight, of far greater merit than any worldly good. And they yield far better returns. Because they even if it's small, it has eternal results. And in ayah 77, now we're told, أفرأيت الذي كفر بآياتنا وقال لأوتين مالا وولدا. And have you ever considered, have you ever seen the one who denies our signs, our ayat, and says, I will surely be given wealth and children. Here, Afara'aita has this, there is a sense of bewilderment, a sense of disbelief. How come? Like, can you believe someone denies the the ayat. Here, the kafara is to cover up, to ignore. Someone who ignores our ayat, our signs, and yet he says, I will certainly be given wealth and children. Here again, let's note that, or I will ask you then, does denying or ignoring the ayat, especially the ayat in creation, because we may be, but I'll come back to the ayat in the Quran, imply that this person denies God? And you just yes or no can do as an answer. Do you think that those who deny the ayat, they are people who deny God?
Wow, that's a question I had never asked. So it's really interesting. You mean denying signs of God does not necessarily mean denying God's existence?
Yeah, I mean, in the Quran, it's in very various places, and we mentioned those passages. They're very, very powerful passages. When we talked about shirk, for instance, how they are asked about who created the heavens and earth, who created them, who is sustaining them, who is sustaining the malakut of everything. Like they are even aware of the meaning of everything, that everything has a meaning, has more than a physical aspect. And they keep saying God, God, and then it says, so why are you not living with this consciousness? So why are you still living like this? So why are you ignoring the signs? And remember, whenever we talked about the shirk in the Quran, it's very much connected with denying the signs, not seeing the signs, not interacting with the creation as signs. That always leads to shirk. It's like an equivalence. It is equivalent to. They are equivalent to each other. So it's not necessarily, these people are not necessarily deniers of God. They can believe in God, but like God creates everything and that's it. Like you don't look at every single thing as an ayah. And they can also even be aware that the Quran says it's an ayah. So I'm talking here about the ayat in the creation. We can believe in God, believe in the Quran, even know that the Quran says everything is an ayah, but in our daily life, or even in our consciousness, an ayah, okay, the Quran says an ayah, but it has nothing, there is a disconnect there, it has nothing to do with me perceiving things as an ayah. Like in our reality, most people's reality, and I'm talking about Muslims, things are not necessarily ayat, even if we are aware enough to call them, to know that they are called so. The ayah also can refer to the Quran, but to the Quran, I think it's more for the believers, because the unbeliever, disbeliever, he doesn't believe in any, ignores all the ayat. But how do we ignore the ayat or deny the ayat in the Quran? It doesn't mean that I say this ayah necessarily, as we usually think, oh, I don't believe in this ayah is not right. Not necessarily that. It could be that I am reading it and I think that I accept it, which means I do not deny it, but I never really question what is it saying, how is this related to my life, what reality is it pointing to in the world? And so that area is all as if non-existent for me. I read it, but I'm blind to it. I just read it as a prayer, which is good, but I don't go beyond that. So there are degrees. And so from one perspective, this area speaks to us here and now, as we always say, how we may not intend to deny or ignore the signs, yet it doesn't mean that we don't do exactly that. When we do not intend to see the ayat, when we do not intend to confirm the signs and honor their messages and follow the guidance in those messages, then automatically, by default, we fall into the category of those who ignore the ayat. And we start living our life as though created beings, created events around us and within us, as though they were not signs, as though they were not ayat, even if we know information, not knowledge, not ma'rifah, but if we have heard that they are ayats, even if we don't deny explicitly, but implicitly it's not there. So there are degrees in the message that this ayah is giving us. And then we are told, oh, so this ayah was, what was it saying? And أفرأيت الذي كفر بآياتنا وقال لأتين مالا وولدا. Have you ever seen, can you imagine someone who covers up, ignores our signs and still says, I will surely be given wealth and children? And compare this with Zakaria alayhi salam at the very beginning when he's asking for a child. He's asking from God's mercy. And this is important because remember we had a discussion about, yes, but we do have needs. Yes, we do have needs. The point is to ask from God to take care of our needs. And how do we get to that point? Because those needs were given to us in order for us to realize that our needs are being taken care of, and they are being taken care of with compassion. Because we have needs and we are too weak. We have no means, no power to take care of them. Simple example, I need to breathe. And I have no power to control the air, to control my lungs, to take care of the process of respiration or of breathing. So I have the need and it's being taken care of, and it's taking, when our consciousness raises from the things, from the breathing, from the air, that apparently seems to be satisfying my need. It seems like my lungs and the air are cooperating together to satisfy my needs, or like water seems to satisfy our thirst. When we go beyond the water, beyond the lungs and the air, then we start looking for the compassionate one who is sustaining the air, who is sustaining my lungs, who is giving me life now, who is sustaining my breathing, who is sending us water and satisfying our thirst with it. So the consciousness goes beyond the need, and the satisfaction of the needs together becomes an ayah, a sign pointing beyond to the one who is taking care of my needs. And then we go back and realize how, for instance, water since we talked a lot in the past about water, is not only a blessing, it's not only a gift, ni'mah, but more importantly, especially in this context, it is an ayah, it is a sign, it speaks. It's a speech. It is telling us about the bestower of the blessings, about the mun'im, about the compassionate creator who creates food with water, for instance, and feeds us with it and sustains our life with it. It's telling us water is an ayah that is indicating the giver of life who sustains all kinds of life through water, including ours. And so we realize that water, for instance, is making tasbihat. It glorifies its maker and makes our Rabb known to us with his beautiful attributes. And then we start partaking and participating in the tasbih, and we say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, MashaAllah, and we say, for instance, Ya Mun'im, Ya Razzaq, O provider, O bestower of blessings, O giver of life. So when we come to this consciousness, the muhsin, the muttaqi who lives with this consciousness, cannot go and say, I will surely be given wealth and children. He will ask, when he feels the need for wealth or the need for children, he will ask like Zakaria alayhi salam, from God's mercy. Because in that consciousness, the believer sees the athar, how would you say? Athar rahmati rabbika. He sees the mercy of God.
Traces?
Everything, everyone. Sorry?
Clues, traces?
Traces, yeah, traces. Actually, it actually means traces. Yes, thank you. So the muttaqi sees the traces of God's mercy in everything, everywhere. So this area refers to the type of people mentioned in the preceding passages, the ones from 73 to 75, people who value wealth and power for themselves. They said, we are better. Why? Because we have more wealth, more power, or whatever. And why do they think they are better? Just by looking, just because someone has more wealth doesn't mean that he's better than the others. But if someone believes that wealth and power and water in themselves, they are the source of the benefits associated with them, then that person cannot see beyond the wealth and the children and the power and the water. It means he cannot perceive the wealth and the children and the water as ayat. He remains stuck in them for themselves. And that's it's almost like worshiping them. That's why I will surely be given wealth and children, can also be understood as I'll have to have the wealth and the children and the power. Why? Because without them, I can't be anything. Because he believes, or they believe, that whatever they are looking for, their needs will be met through the wealth and the children or whatever they are looking for. In the example of the water, that would mean that, for instance, they would perceive water as the source of life. When we have mentioned in earlier classes that how can this be possible? If you stop and pause and reflect, we will realize that water cannot be the source of life when it itself has no life. As in the Quran, we are taught to reflect again and again. And therefore, these people, they cannot see the rahmah, they cannot see the mercy in being blessed with water. Also, while someone is in this state of mind, they will insist on having the water for itself. I will get the water. I need the money. I cannot live without the money, the wealth, the power. Usually when we hear something like this, when here I can see your faces, but like sometimes people are worried. Doesn't mean like we won't have money. No, it's just about how we relate to money or relate to health, to wealth, or relate to power. Because as I just said earlier, we are created with the needs for water, the need for wealth, the need for power in different degrees. And power, if you want power, Ya Qadir, God is the all-powerful. You ask him for support. You want wealth, Al-Ghani, you ask him. Al-Wahhab, he's the one who gives, who is rich and wealthy. So the problem is not in the wealth and the power, but in how we relate on them. And that's why we panic. We think that without them we are doomed. Whereas the believer asks from God. And when we ask from God, when we are a believer and we are consciously asking from God, with surrender. We ask with surrender and with trust. It means trust concerning the outcome. For instance, we do our best to get the water, the wealth, let's say, within God's boundaries. We don't go and steal from the neighbor because I have to have it, whatever, or cheat or whatever. No. I cannot do that because I'm asking from God. So if my neighbor has the wealth, it only becomes a new sign that, yes, look, wealth is given. So I will ask from my Rabb. And while doing so, I do it with the awareness that my actions are a mode of prayer, a way of asking from God. And even if I'm working for it. And that working, that striving doesn't become like a burden because I am not living with the illusion that I'm creating my wealth. I'm doing whatever I think will lead there, but at the same time, I am expecting the result from his mercy, from his abundance. And that's why I don't have to wait until I'm very wealthy in order to share and give to those who are poorer than me. And the more you give, as we are told in the Quran, the more you are given. Because the more you give, the more you witness the name giver in your own life. And the more you are certain that he's the giver, you will see that he is giving us in all kinds of ways. And wealth is not only wealth of money, it's abundance in everything. And we are surrounded with so much abundance, not necessarily money. And if we don't get the result we strived for, then we're still sure that God knows what is best for us. And because we trust him, we accept whatever he creates, which means we surrender to the results. Even, for instance, especially if it is like we are seeking health, we don't say, okay, now I sought health in this medicine or in this remedy, but it didn't work. Therefore, I will live the rest of my life with this sickness. That's not how we're being created. We're given the need for healing is renewed. And so we seek health in other venues. However, we seek it with surrender, not when we are seeking, for instance, the health, we seek it peacefully, in surrender, not in struggle with the situation, not complaining, why is this not working? And when we live with this in this way, with trust and surrender, then we can see the rahmah everywhere, and because we interact with everything as ayat. When we don't interact with things in ayat, we see them as causes, meaning they cause whatever comes after them. It is the water that is quenching my thirst, it seems. When I don't question it, that's how it seems. So water is the cause of my satisfaction, of taking care of my thirst. But when we talked about in the first part of the surah, we saw how causes do not create. Water cannot give me life. Water cannot quench my thirst. Water knows nothing. Water doesn't know my cells or the cells of all living beings. Otherwise, it would be a god who would know everything and has the power to act in everything without ever confusing anything, without ever making a mistake. The moment we become aware and start asking the questions that we are taught in the Quran, that moment we realize that it's ridiculous to think that water is doing it. And then we are saved from that hidden shirk, and we start drinking the water as an ayah. Means as I drink the water, the ayah is being performed. The message is being spoken to me through my thirst being quenched. And that's how I start feeling the pleasure and the value of the names manifested in that interaction. And that's living tawheed, as opposed to thinking that water itself is doing it, which is shirk. And so I also become aware that this is a miracle, like something lifeless is being used in sustaining life. Subhanallah. Everything is a miracle. And I live in that awe and in that state of prostration before the awesomeness of Allah's rahmah in everything. But for the one who says I will have, denies the ayat, is not aware of the ayat at all. Of course, if someone is not aware, or if someone denies the ayat, he can't ask from God, even when we think we are verbally asking from God, but in our heart we actually say no. Like I ask God, where is it? Where is the wealth? Where is the health? Like just a second, you are asking from God, and He knows what is best for you. So it's not only words, and the words are important because they are the seeds of that consciousness. They are the seeds at the beginning, and they are the reminders. They are the dhikr, the remembrance later. So the words are very important, but we can't live it at words only and never reflect on the meaning of the words. So for the one who is not aware of the signs, who does not live with the signs, with that consciousness, with the ayat, then he's bound to value things for themselves, in themselves. And if and when we think that things in themselves have value, not in relation to their creator, not as gift, as ayats bearing messages from him, but in themselves. Water in itself is what matters to me, health in itself and wealth in itself, and all of them are transient. They will lead to disillusion. Disillusion in this world Because if I'm spend all my life to gather wealth, and then I'll find that wealth cannot protect my youth. By the time I amass it, I am not young enough to enjoy it. By the time I get the power, I am myself. Yes, I can buy some power, some things, but in myself, I am becoming weaker, and I know that I will die eventually, even if I am not weak. Let's say I found a solution and I'm strong. Still, I know deep down that I'm going to die. And that brings a sense of disillusion, pain in this world. And of course, in Akhirah, here, when I feel the pain, I can still divert myself and keep myself busy with something else. But in the hereafter, there will be no way to escape the reality, to escape that disillusion that I was deluding myself with things that cannot help themselves. How can they help me? And so that pain will become fire in the hereafter. And so this person who denies the ayat and yet at the same time says, I will be given wealth and children, we are told in 78, the next ayah, has he perused the unseen, or has he concluded a covenant with the most merciful? Like, how can he be so sure? اطلع الغيب أم اتخذ عند الرحمن عهدا? Since only the Rahman, the compassionate, the merciful Rabb can give him the wealth and the children. How come? Has he received like a message from the merciful? That's why he's sure he will have. If not, what is it? What is it that is making this human being, this mortal, weak human being, this person who is totally dependent on his Rabb, so sure and so confident? And of course, one of the first answer is self-delusion. This person is not aware of his, well, he's probably aware of his needs, but not of his vulnerability, fragility, of his weakness, inherent weakness and limitations. Of course, it doesn't mean he doesn't know, but he doesn't want to live with that consciousness because it's so painful to live with that consciousness, unless we use it to find our Rabb, to prostrate before him and surrender that, yes, we depend on our Rabb for everything. He's our sustainer. And then it becomes, our vulnerability becomes not a wound and not painful anymore, but a source of strength. It becomes the source that what makes us connect and feel the need to connect to the Rahman, feels the need for his guidance, for his help. It's interesting here because the tala'a, I said peruse here because it has this the meaning of looking, but also it has the meaning of discovering going to the top of something, like a top of a mountain in order to discover something. So there is this looking and trying to discover and perusing, but there is also the position, the need to reach a high position, like the top of a mountain. And so the implicit connotation that I feel here is like, do you stand that high that you can see, that you can know the unseen? Like, are you not aware of your position, your station? And of course, the person is not, because we are only aware of when we become aware of our position as abd, then we recognize our Rabb, and then we cannot recognize our Rabb without first seeing the signs, because it is the signs that took us to him. It's not like I was born Muslim, it says in the Quran everything is ayah, therefore everything is an ayah. Full stop, close your book, now go and live your life as you want. That's not what it is. Ubudiyya is a consciousness, is a state of being. And that state of being includes interacting with everything as ayah. And it is because it's my interaction, for instance, my need, my thirst for water. It is my interaction with water. It is when I drink the water and it satisfies and quenches my thirst that I realize, unlock the messages and the meanings and the value, the significance of the water. If water was sitting out there and I never had any interaction with it, meaning I had no need for it, I wouldn't know what it was, and I couldn't feel anything for it. I couldn't be grateful for it. So in that interaction, that's the ayat, and that's how those ayat will take me to my Rabb. Otherwise, I would not be aware of my Rabb. I would know maybe knowledge from the head, from the mind, that this is Ubudiyya is not only the mind, it is also the heart. The heart is confirming, is surrendering to this reality. So here it's saying, like, where do you stand? Are you that high that you can see the unseen? And we know that knowledge of the unseen is only given, and it is given not to those who imagine, fancy themselves to know everything, but to those who, on the contrary, are aware that they don't know anything and that knowledge is only given, and they ask for it from God again, like Zakaria alayhi salam asking for a child from God. So if we have needs, and those needs takes us to our Rabb, and so we go back and ask from him, and we are grateful to him alone, and we worship him alone. And then we are told, كَلَّا سَنَكْتُبُ مَا يَقُولُ وَنَمُدُّ لَهُ مِنَ الْعَذَابِ مَدًّا. And we see this expression, نَمُدُّ لَهُ مَدًّا. Certainly not, like كَلَّا, not at all, surely not. We shall record what he says, and we shall extend the length of his suffering. So remember, we were told we shall extend the length, we will extend their lives in the world until they get to know the reality of what they were told, either by seeing the suffering or maybe eventually surrendering. And here we are told also that everything, whatever he says, will be recorded, and the same extension will be given in the hereafter. The extension of the suffering, min al-adabi. And we know also that everything is recorded, not only what this person says, but actually everything. In Surah Al-Kahf, which is Surah 18, which is the surah that comes right before this, Surah Maryam, we are told, and the record of everyone's deed will be laid open, and you will behold the guilty, al-mujrimin, actually maybe the criminals, let's say, and you will behold the criminals filled with dread at what they see therein. They will see in there the records of their own deeds. When they will, the records, the book containing their own deeds will be open in front of them, they will be dread. They will be filled with dread, and they will exclaim, "Oh, woe unto us, ya waylatana." What a record is this? It leaves out nothing, be it small or great, but takes everything into account. Everything. يا ويلتنا ما لهذا الكتاب لا يغادر صغيرة ولا كبيرة إلا أحصاها. For they will find all that they ever were facing, whatever was facing them. And they will know that your sustainer, your Rabb, does not wrong anyone. Subhanallah. So the whole thing is to live with this, with that awareness here, because then we will see, everyone will be aware of it, but it will be too late. And actually, if we're careful, we will see that here things are recorded. They come back to us in life. In the next area, we're told, وَنَرِثُهُ مَا يَقُولُ وَيَأْتِينَ فَرْدًا. And we will inherit all that he's speaking of, for he will appear before us, God speaking before us, us here is God, alone. He will appear before us alone, and we will inherit. Which means that he will come to God with none of his assets. Even if he gets the wealth and the children, and he will, when we go there, no one actually, not only the disbeliever, no one will go before God on his own. But the believer knows that and is ready for that and is looking forward for that. Because in this world, the believers looks only to God for help, only to God to sustain his life and take care of his needs. So actually, meeting God alone is what we do in the Salah, in the 5 daily prayers. And it's something that brings satisfaction and joy and peace to the heart of the believer. But if we never, even if we believe in God, but like we believe in God, but together with shirk, giving value to assets for themselves, in themselves, for the wealth in itself, the health in itself, then when they are taken away from us and when we'll be resurrected on our own, it must be very scary, because suddenly it feels like you are naked, like you are very fragile. We are very fragile, but if we always ignored that and put it under the rug, like we never dealt with that situation, there it's going to be very, very painful, the reality of who we are and what we were doing. And that means he will come to God with none of his assets, none of his wealth or children or people or connections or whatever. Everything will be taken away from him, and he will be alone before God. No one will be there to support him or help him. In fact, on that day, we are told in other passages in the Quran, everyone will be busy with his own predicament. The famous ayat that come to my mind is يوم يفر المرء من أخيه وأمه وأبيه ولكل امرئ منهم يومئذ شأن يغنيه. The day of judgment is a day when everyone will want to flee from his brother, from his mother and father, and from his spouse and children. وأمه وأبيه وصاحبته وبنيه. Yeah, I missed something in between. On that day, to every one of them, his own state will be a sufficient concern. His own predicament, he will be busy with, concerned with his own state. He won't be busy with the rest. So even if they were there, he wouldn't be busy with them. So everyone will be judged on his own. Everyone will be standing in front of God on his own. Is it different in this life? No. But only the conscious, the muttaqeen, the muhsineen are aware of that. And those who are not of us, who are not aware of it, are still piling up things and trying to rely on them, seeing our family, our friends, our wealth as extension, our titles, our knowledge as extension of who we are. But those who know, they know that their interaction of what is given to them is very different. It makes them closer to God. Why? Because in the beginning, they surrendered to the reality of who they are, abd, vulnerable, fragile, faqir, needy, and ajiz, weak, abd. And so everything becomes a means to get close, to know God and get closer to him, instead of a means of building a wall around us and not getting in touch with who we truly are, and therefore never truly surrendering to our Rabb and knowing him truly and worshipping him truly. In the next ayah, we're told they took deities other than God, hoping that they would be a source of strength and power for them. Can you see how it just flows? وَاتَّخَذُوا مِن دُونِ اللَّهِ آلِهَةً لِيَكُونُوا لَهُمْ عِزًّا. Yeah, it doesn't mean that these people saying, oh, my wealth is my God. No, but they are seeking help from it. It says, why? لِيَكُونُوا لَهُمْ عِزًّا. They are hoping that they would be a source of strength, a source of power from them. If I'm seeking a strength and power in anything except God, except the Rahman, except in his Rahmah, that's what it means that I'm taking other things as deities other than God. It doesn't mean that we made a symbol of wealth into a statue when I am actually bowing to it or chanting in front of it. No, but I'm spending all my life for it. All my emotions are, my heart is attached to it. If I think I'm going to lose it, I panic and I may even die of a heart attack, because I truly believe inside, I'm convinced that my well-being, my strength, my power all depends on how much, for instance, wealth I have. We have it will be different idols for different people. Well, that means they have taken false God, they have taken idols to help them with their needs and to protect them from the vicissitudes of life. And we do have needs. For instance, relying on money, on family, on connection and power and help to the point of worship means not as a ni'mah, as a gift that Allah is sending me to help me with. But no, I forget about who sent it or that it was sent, and I am stuck in it and I can't see beyond it. That's what it means. It means the family, the wealth, the career, the title, the knowledge, whatever it is, the power, themselves, I fancy that themselves meet my needs. And that's how I make them into idols. And as we are told in the Quran, they themselves are not gods, they are not idols. Actually, in the hereafter, they will deny that, as we will be told in the next ayah. So the money, the wealth, the health, the family, etc., whatever we value in our life, they themselves, they are not gods, they are not idols. They can be used as blessings from God that reminds us his mercy and his generosity. They can be a means to make us know our Rabb better, and which means this can only happen when we are aware that they are ayat, when we use them bismillah, in the name of the provider. but they can also be perceived as the source of the benefits we derived from them. And in that case, we would have made them into idols, whether we are conscious of it or not. Most people won't be consciously saying, no one says, this is what I worship. But their way of, their connection to it is a seeking of power from that thing. Therefore, that's what worship means. When we seek their help, it means we are worshiping them. When we seek power from them, we are worshiping them. كلا سيكفرون بعبادتهم ويكونون عليهم ضدا. And then we are told, but nay, they, meaning the object of the worship and the adoration, they will deny their worship. And they will turn against them, which means against those who worship them. And we are told clearly in other places in the Quran how they will say, no, we never told them to worship. They themselves decided that. In other words, like water is not telling us I'm the source of life. We are making it up. Because the water itself, the way it is created, is saying, you know what, I have no life. I know nothing about life. I cannot give life. So we are the ones who are seeking the help from them and living in delusion, in unawareness of the reality. So this ayah 82 is telling us that their object of worship will deny it. They will deny to the disbeliever. They will turn against them, means they will reject their worship. How? How would they reject the help? Because in Akhirah, it will be clear to all, believer and disbeliever, that created things cannot sustain our life. They cannot help us in any way, since they themselves are created, since they themselves need to be sustained, as we are repeatedly told in the Quran. And that's why for the conscious, the muttaqi, who is aware of this reality here and now, he is aware of this reality before Akhirah. He doesn't have to wait to witness this after death. It will be too late. In the Quran, we are taught how to witness this reality here before Akhirah. And in this world, for everyone, believer and disbeliever, they turn against them means they do not fulfill their ultimate desires. Why do we want wealth? For instance, it can be for many, many things, but ultimately it's for safety and feeling good, pleasure. So we can, let's say someone wants, we want wealth, so we can buy lots of things with that wealth, and we may even get. Why do we want to buy lots of things? Why do we want to buy a big house and this and that? Because we want joy. And we may get some temporary excitement at possessing those goods, those whatever things. But because they are not permanent, they cannot satisfy the human heart's longing for eternal joy. And even if we have them until we die, deep down, all that time, we know that we will die and leave everything. And that knowing spoils the joy and the excitement. Impermanent things cannot satisfy the human heart, because the human heart longs for eternal joy, and the others are all impermanent, short-lived. And so in this world they turn against them, but they don't see the suffering. In the hereafter, no one will be able to deny it. It will be clear. It will be clear that they can, whatever we are benefiting from things around us is only bi'idhnillah, by God's leave. Water cannot itself quench my thirst. It is bi'idhnillah. This is how God has created the whole system. The bulb doesn't create the light. It is part of the system, of the electric system, the light system. In the bulb or the switch themselves do not create the light or the electricity. And actually, electricity itself doesn't. It's the motion of it. And in the next ayah, we're told, أَلَمْ تَرَى إِنَّا أَرْسَلْنَا الشَّيَاطِينَ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ تَؤُزُّهُمْ أَزًّا. Are you not aware that we have unleashed the Satans upon the deniers to incite them? And you understand that it's to incite them towards evil. And remember, shayateen and shaitan have appeared a few times before in the surah. And we have mentioned that the term shaitan is often used to describe all that is intrinsically evil, including the impulses in humans' own soul, النفس الأمارة بالسوء. It was the nafs al-ammara bisu, the soul that incites to evil. So shaitan is not like a big teddy bear, an ugly teddy bear coming and telling us something. It's a force. It's a, I don't want to say energy because it's not an energy, but it's a creation within us. Like for good, we have the angels. For evil, we have Satan's. And here, تَأُزُّهُمْ أَزًّا, again, it's like يَمُدُّهُمْ مَدًّا. It's all the مفعول فيه, to shake them up, to constantly incite them. And that means when people choose to deny the truth, because it's talking about the deniers, they are incited to evil. And they do not even realize that they are being manipulated. Similar to, it reminds me of وَأَمَّا مَنِ اسْتَغْنَى وَكَذَّبَ بِالْحُسْنَى فَسَنُيَسِّرُهُ لِلْعُسْرَى. The one who imagines himself to be independent of his Rabb, and then instead of confirming the husna, the most beautiful, he denies and belies the most beautiful, then we will make him, God saying, we will ease him into the path of difficulty. And this is something similar. When people deny the truth, they are inclined to commit evil, to transgress against God's boundaries, because they tend to follow their lower self-desires. And they don't seek refuge with God, refuge from Satan, like the believers do. We keep seeking refuge from Satan. So here the denial is a choice, and together with this choice, one will lose the divine protection from evil impulses. When we confirm the most beautiful, we listen and we are told, you know what, there is in you not only an inclination to good, but also an inclination to evil. And we become aware of it. We become aware of these two inclinations. And so we will see when we have this impulse towards evil, and we will seek divine protection. For the deniers, however, it's they are not aware of these two inclinations. And because they identify with the nafs al-ammara bisu, they live at that level. with the desire of the soul, and there is no self-control, no higher meaning and higher purpose in life. It's all for me here in this world. Even if it's not here in time, it's still here in this world. So they indulge their evil impulses because they cannot separate between the two. They are not aware of that we have those two inclinations. We become aware of them only when we surrender, when we are aware, when we live consciously and we become aware and we see those two tendencies within us. So Satan is sent to them, the Satans are sent to them, we are told in this ayah, but let's not misunderstand. It doesn't mean that Satans are sent to us, oh, what are we going to do now? They are not only they are sent to the deniers, but they incite them to evil. Because remember, we talked about Shaitan in many, actually there are many ayat in the Quran, but one of them in Surah Ibrahim, Surah number 14, ayah 22, Shaitan himself says, I had no power in Akhirah, on the day of judgment. When they say, but Satan deluded us, he will say, no, I had no power over you except to call you, and you responded to my call. So this ayah, 83 is saying, true, God sent, yes, God sent. It means it is part, that's how he created creation, that there are Satans, that we have this impulse, this inclination towards evil. But when human beings deny the truth, they become unaware that it is an inclination. They see it as themselves. I want to do this. Because the I is undefined there. There's no conscious, there's no self-awareness. And so Satan calls them, that's what it means, that Satans will incite them, and they will respond to his call. That's it. It's totally free will, except that we are unaware. And as I always remind ourselves, and especially I remind myself, is that just because I'm unaware doesn't make me or doesn't make us not responsible. Because we were supposed to be aware and therefore seek protection from Satan with God. Like Yusuf alayhi salam, in Nafs al-Ammaratin bis-Su'. He says, I do not absolve myself. He is aware that he has that potential and that inclination. That's why he immediately seeks help from God. And the next ayah we're told, فَلَا تَجْعَلْ عَلَيْهِمْ فَلَا تَعْجَلْ فَلَا تَعْجَلْ عَلَيْهِمْ إِنَّمَا نَعُدُّ لَهُمْ عَدًّا. Hence, do not haste against them. For we are counting for them very precisely. It means everything they are doing is being counted, is being recorded. We are counting for them. We're counting the days of their life, the days, the night, everything, every breath, because it's نَعُدُّ لَهُمْ عَدًّا. نَعُدُّ, we are counting, and it doesn't say what we are counting, the object, it leaves it open, so you can fill in everything, counting the days of their life, yes, the days, the night, the breath, everything. Until the time of their meeting with their Rabb. It means until the day of the resurrection. So do not haste against them, just leave them. Everything is being recorded. It can be understood as leave them to God, even they are committing evil and doing wrongdoing. And also another meaning could be, do not haste against them because you never know. As long as we are in this life, there is always the hope and possibility for making tawbah and going back to the right path. So as long as we have not departed from this world, inshallah, there is hope, unless someone insists on denying consciously. The next day is يوم نحشر المتقين إلى الرحمن وفدا. That day, we shall escort the God conscious onto the most merciful, onto the Rahman, as honored guests. وَنَسُوقُ الْمُجْرِمِينَ إِلَى جَهَنَّمَ وِرْدًا. And we will drive the criminals onto hell as a thirsty herd is driven to a well. Can you imagine? They are thirsty, and the place in which they will quench their thirst will be hell, will be hellfire. The imagery is really, oh my God, like if someone is thirsty, you will think you will take it to a well of water. No, this is a well of fire. And again, the key words here, the people of paradise, those who will be escorted to the presence of God, of the Rahman, are al-muttaqeen. So this muttaqeen is repeated again and again. It's a key word, this taqwa. This living consciously is a key word, and being aware of where the road of shirk, where it takes away from the Rahman, it takes away from the mercy. You will be deprived, you will be thirsty, and instead of getting water, you will get fire. Because even if there is water there, that water will be fire, because water only quenches thirst bi-idnillah, by God's permission. It itself cannot do anything. So that muttaqeen is a key word, and Rahman, Ar-Rahman, remember that Ar-Rahman keeps being repeated in this ayah, subhanallah. And one of the main themes of this surah is Rahmah. And it says, وَنَسُوقُ الْمُجْرِمِينَ. The muttaqeen will be nahshuru, they will be escorted, like they are honored guests. They are escorted nicely to the presence of Rahman. Wafda. Wafda is like, when you have honored guests, like an assembly visiting the king, visiting the president when from a foreign country an ambassador comes or something.
Like a delegation.
A delegation, exactly, thank you. But for the criminals, for the disbeliever, it says وَنَسُوقُ. Nasuqu is used for a herd of animals. So they will be dragged like animals, and they will be like thirsty herd and driven to a well in hellfire. لا يملكون الشفاعة إلا من اتخذ عند الرحمن عهدا. Can you see again, Rahman? On that day, no one will have the benefit of intercession. No one will be able to intercede except the one who has entered into a covenant, who has made a covenant with the most merciful, who has a bond with the most merciful. Can you imagine? Even then, it's like in this world also. Who has the shafa'ah? Who can intercede with God? Those who are al-muttaqeen, those who are close to the Rahman, those who witness the Rahmah in everything, those who taste and see and the Rahmah in everything, because everything is an ayah to His Rahmah. وَسِعَتْ رَحْمَتِي كُلَّ شَيْءٍ. His Rahmah encompasses everything, if we could only see. It encompasses what we think is good and what we think is bad. We talked about the good and the bad being ayats. And if, when in disbelief, when we're disconnected to the Rahman or to our Rabb, even the good will lead to disillusion because it is impermanent. When living with taqwa and with that ihsan and consciousness of God, then even the bad is an ayah and carries beautiful messages from the Rahman. It is also reflecting his rahmah. That's why it says only on that day no one will possess la yamlikuna, no one will possess shafa'a, intercession, except those who have entered into a bond, who have a covenant with the most merciful. And we when do we make the covenant with the Rahman? Not on that day. That day will be too late. It means we have a whole lifetime to make a covenant with the Rahman. And how do we make the covenant with the Rahman? By living with taqwa, because when we live with ihsan, with taqwa, then we will experience the rahmah in everything. Then we will know that everything is a means to reach the Rahman. Everything is a means of shafa'ah. Otherwise, nothing, even the good things, because they don't last, because they are created, because they are powerless, they can't sustain themselves, they cannot answer our need for everlastingness. And they can never, therefore, satisfy the human heart and the human needs for eternity, for purpose, for meaning. Subhanallah. So this muttaqeen and ar-Rahman, they keep coming again and again. Subhanallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعواهم الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه يا أرحم الراحمين نستغفر الله نستغفر الله العظيم الكريم الرحيم الذي لا إله إلا هو الحي القيوم ونتوب إليه سبحانه. Thank you. I'll stop here because next is the topic will slightly change. It's still the same from the beginning. From one perspective, it's all one. From another perspective, it seems like it's changing. Thank you.
Thank you. Jazakallah khair, Sister Yamina. Thank you. Is there anyone who wants to ask a question or share a comment? Yes, Elif.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank you. I think one of the key points in this, tonight's discussion for me, even we are in the ghafla, we cannot it cannot be like, oh, I'm not guilty because I wasn't aware of this. This is a good emphasizing that we can be in ghafla, but we are still responsible for it. Because we were supposed to be not in ghafla, and we were supposed to choose the awareness. But sometimes I was feeling like, oh, I'm in ghafla state sometimes, and that's why I don't realize. That's why I'm not connecting. But tonight I just realized even I'm in ghafla, and it's a choosing still. So thank you so much for that, Sister Yamina. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam. And in the beginning, we run away from the responsibility because we think of it as a burden. But actually, when we accept the responsibility, it's very empowering because we realize suddenly that we have the choice, that the remote control is in our hand. So if I realize that the other side of the coin is that I can choose to be conscious, to live with awareness. I can choose to make istighfar. I can choose to be a abd. So when we take the responsibility, we realize that it's not a burden. It's an asset. It's a gift, and it makes life much, much easier because we suddenly realize that we have support. We have a Rabb. We are not alone. So it's a trick in the beginning. The trick of the nafs says, oh yes, but like if you take responsibility, it means you are bad. Yes, but it means that I can choose. I have a choice. It means I am the one choosing. So it's very, very empowering. Alhamdulillah, it's a gift. Responsibility is a gift.
Sometimes it's just not so easy to see because it's because this taking responsibility is taking responsibility. It's something that happens inside. I mean, there's something that I don't want to see in me, which is the reason why I don't want to take responsibility.
And the most important responsibility that's going to transform our life is going to happen inside. And when we resist it, it seems like a huge mountain, and it's like insurmountable. But the moment I decide and choose, choose is the word. I choose to surrender, even if it's a mountain, I take responsibility for it. It becomes very small, and I realize that I have all the help is accessible to me. And that surrender is like putting the switch on and off. It's a choice. It's like the remote control is in my hand and I don't want to put it on. I resist. Because I have all what's inside, it becomes harder. But it's harder only in the beginning. The more I exercise my choice in taking responsibility, in surrendering, in accepting, even if it's the worst thing, okay, I did it. And but I'm willing to make up for it. I'm willing to make istighfar, to make amends. Then it becomes a big, that huge burden is taken away, and suddenly the mountain disappears and a door, huge door to rahmah, opens up in front of us. And the more we practice this, the more we become convinced that we don't have anything to fear, and so we are more it becomes easier to surrender, to accept and take the responsibility, and then it becomes a joy. And
sometimes there are some blocks on the way. I mean,
blocks are not the blocks, but the blocks are in my perception.
Yes.
No perception. They are not there truly. Actually, when I
they feel very real until I get to
exactly. That's why I say, even if it's real, I am going to surrender. Even if there is a mountain there, not only blocks, I am going to take responsibility. After I take responsibility, and means I surrender, I realize that, oh, there is nothing, there is only rahmah. And then it becomes easier and easier. So I do it despite the fact that it seems like there are blocks.
There is no one else who can take responsibility. It's just me there.
Exactly.
Last time I did this exercise where you write out what you want to do. You know, if you have, I don't know, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year, so so we did this at one point. So the things that I wrote there was, I want to be whole, and I want to be with someone who wants to be with me, and so on. And so then. And so I want to be whole, and someone takes care of me, and someone wants to be with me. So this is what I want, right? It's reasonable, it's understandable. But then I realized that it's me who has to give that to myself, because there is no one else. And
well, there is my Rabb.
He's already taking care of me. We are already whole. He didn't create us.
But this, so you said this, right? You said last time, so you're never alone. But this, you are never alone. I mean, if you feel completely alone, you feel completely alone. And then so you can see this when people like you, when you are with other people, then you connect immediately on a very deep level. And I can think, when I can also connect to people, but I can also be very alone. And this, so in these moments when I feel very alone, then it's me who has to be with myself. I have to kind of listen to myself, and then I really can feel that there is someone, namely that me, who wasn't hurt, who wasn't taken care of by myself.
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I mean, so that's, I think that is interesting. So that's, I mean, it's a kind of, it's this responsibility, me about myself, because that's the closest thing to me.
Mm-hmm. And when in situation where other people are concerned, even if I convince myself that the other party is 90% responsible, it always seems that the other people are responsible for everything. Like they are wrong, we are right. Even like to that side of us who clings, who resists and doesn't want to surrender, say, okay, let's say the other party is 90% responsible for everything. That 10% is still 100% my responsibility. So whatever you think it is, just surrender, accept, take responsibility. And when we do that, whatever our belief and our illusion is, after we surrender, things start getting clearer. It's like opening our eyes in the darkness, and slowly we start seeing that there is light. And you know, when we are dazzled in the beginning, you don't see clearly, and then you see, oh, that's the Rahmah. So that surrender is very, very important, and it is a choice. We don't need many justifications for that. Act on that, and afterwards things will start getting clearer and clearer. Of course, we need to have some knowledge, some information, but we have more than enough by now. There is no try, and we also, when we resist, we're not trying the path of surrender. Try to surrender for, let's say, we lived for 40 years without surrender. Let's make a covenant. Say, let's live for a year with surrender, practice surrender on a regular basis. And believe me, if someone truly does it, they will never be able to come back to the resisting. Because when we live with the surrender, there is a peace, an inner peace. You go with the flow of life. Even when we make mistakes, it becomes very easy to come back. It doesn't, the pain doesn't become suffering. The loneliness takes us closer to God, and to find true spiritual friendship of the soul, instead of taking us away. When we resist, everything takes us away from God, from the path that leads to the right path. Is the path of ni'mah, الذي أنعمت عليهم, the path of blessings, the path of rahmah, of mercy, the path of true satisfaction, true joy, eternal joy and happiness. Inshallah. May we be of the surrenderers. May we be of those who choose to surrender whatever the situation is, even if it seems to be against us. We'll surrender first, and then we will evaluate what to do. Inshallah.
Inshallah. So, and then some practice and retreats, Andrea is saying. Okay. So on that note, inshallah, we'll end here. Sister Yamina, did you mean to say something?
No.
Okay. All right. Inshallah,
Thank you.
then. Thank you very much. Jazakallah khair. And thank you everyone who were present and who contributed with questions and comments. And inshallah, see you next week. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah, inshallah. Fi amanillah.
Fi amanillah.